What it do? What it do? We're going to be joining live soon. I hope everybody is ready. I hope you got your popcorn. I hope you got your snacks, your coffee. If you are just coming, waking up or whatever the case is. We're just doing a little mic test. We got a few more minutes, and then we're gonna jump on our live. Check 1 2 1 2. Hope I sound good. Every now and then. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Yes. Check. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. We are here live in effect on Therapy Hub. Thank you, everybody. If you are tuning into our live, please like, subscribe, and share. All right, like, subscribe, and share if you are tuning into our live. Now I'm hearing a static. I'm not sure where that's from. Hearing a little bit of a crackle. Alrighty, is everybody ready to join? Y'all ready for the episode of the year? We have a very special guest. Hello, everybody. Can everybody see me? Awesome. All right, let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You already know what it is. It's your boy, Darue the Rue. And we're here with another episode from me to you. Okay, we came to transform the mind and heal the soul. So welcome to Therapy Hub. Now, in our last episode, we explored the psychology of anger. We learned the anger is natural. It's a natural human emotion. We also know that every one of us experiences it. It's not something that is new to the world, and is something that nobody has experienced. But today we're asking a different question. If anger alone doesn't cause violence, then what does? What happens in the hours between the anger and the escalation to violence? Now, before we begin today's discussion, excuse me, sorry if I'm a little too loud here. Before we begin today's discussion, I'd like to introduce a very special guest joining us on Therapy Hub. Now, Kathleen Johnson is an author. She's a certified life coach. She's a speaker. She's an advocate. She has her own podcast. She's a podcast host. And she's dedicated her work to helping individuals better understand themselves, build resilience, and create meaningful change in their lives. But that's not it. Many of you may recognize Kathleen from her appearance on CTV's Good Morning Vancouver, where she joined the conversation during Pride Month to discuss the importance of supporting queer youth and creating a safe and inclusive community. Now, she's also shared her knowledge and experience across numerous podcasts, social media platforms, interviews, and community initiatives using her voice um, as her outlet. And we're so thankful for what she has done for the community and everything she's doing for people in regards to their healing, compassion, and personal growth. So today, Kathleen joins us. But before she joins us, we're gonna get some light in the studio, and then we're gonna get Kathleen in. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna bring her in now. I don't want to have her waiting in there too long. She can say hello. Kathleen, let everybody know who you are and let everybody know where you're from.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I am actually originally from Calgary, Alberta, and Métis Region 3 and Treaty 7. And I currently live in Vancouver, spent many, many years in Toronto and Mississauga. And right now I'm down in Atlanta for Black Writers Weekend and to visit family.
Awesome, awesome. Now, which part of Vancouver are you from?
Right now I live in Vancouver
You
itself.
live in Vancouver. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm from Calgary.
Oh, you're from Calgary. Okay,
Yeah.
nice, nice. All right. Now, as we continue before the trigger series, we're going to examine the emotional and psychological journey that can lead someone from pain to resentment to or pain and resentment, and then you know making that life changing decision, right? That can ultimately make change things forever, and more importantly, how those patterns um, can be interrupted before the violence actually occurs. Okay, so before we're going to ask you some questions, and we know that you're very good with questions, and we know that you're going to try your best to answer our questions. Now, you have a book, correct? It's called The Thinking Outside of the Boardroom.
Yes.
Before
Yeah.
we go any further, explain about your book and what
Sure.
it's about. Yeah.
Yes, it's called Thinking Outside the Boardroom: Creative Solutions in
Okay.
Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Anti Racism.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what it is. I'm a creative art background, and I found myself in corporate.
Right.
So I don't have a traditional path to getting into this work. A lot of folks were in HR or they
Mhm.
were some sort of consultant or something before.
Mhm.
I started my consultancy during the pandemic,
Okay.
and I found myself at home.
Mhm.
I was doing cosmetic management, and I found myself at home and thought maybe I should dust off that degree
Yeah.
and retrained in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've always been in this space, but not officially because it never was an official space to be in until
Right.
2020. So yeah, so that's how I got into it. I started having conversations with people because
Mhm.
I realized, oh, this horrible thing with George Floyd happened, and I'm actually the daughter of a police officer,
Okay.
and also my parents were community builders, so they came
Okay.
in that first wave of Caribbean people from the '60s,
Yeah.
and they were like brand new to the
Yeah.
West.
Yeah.
We did not settle in Toronto like a lot of people did, or Montreal. We settled
Mhm.
in Alberta, and I was the only child born in Canada in my family, and so we saw my dad go through it, and my
Yeah.
parents go through it, and they built community from the bottom up.
Mhm.
So that was always natural to me. My parents were also always politically involved as well.
Okay.
I was like 8 years old, and my mom was dragging me to campaigns, and
Mhm.
so I mean, you just kind of did what your parents did, and so I saw a lot of that, and so a lot of this came naturally to me. And then when George Floyd was murdered, I saw an opportunity to get into the conversation because I saw a lot of uh, high emotion and
Hmm.
a lot of misinformation flying around. I know
Right.
the words disinformation and misinformation are huge now, but I
Right.
really saw it back then as well and thought, let me try to get into this space and see how I can help this discussion. And
Hmm.
then from there, I got started getting more speaking opportunities with Bank of America and big governmental agencies
Okay.
and nonprofits. And so it started from there. And then I found my way into government in the
Nice.
legislature in BC. I did that for a few months.
Nice.
Wasn't my jam. I am very politically minded, but it wasn't really my jam to work in the legislature in that capacity. And then
Hmm.
I got into the health authority. So I've been in the provincial health authority doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work for about 4 years now in
Okay.
Vancouver.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, congratulations and thank you for your incredible work. And we're gonna promote your book. We have a we're gonna display it on the screen later after we finish the interview. So if anybody's interested in getting the book, I believe it's on Audible and it's available on Amazon. Correct?
It's on Amazon and it's in every form. You can listen to
That's
it. You
and you
can
can
read it
read
on
it.
your Kindle, your Kobo,
Yeah.
hardcover, paperback.
Now,
It's yeah,
where can they get it? The hardcover. Where can they get the hardcover from?
on Amazon as well.
On
Or
Amazon.
if you're
Okay.
in the United States, Barnes and Noble,
Okay.
and also Indigo. And if you message me, you can get a signed copy from me. I will
Awesome.
send it to you. Yeah.
Little off topic. I have a friend, and when we're done the interview, I'll connect you both. He owns a African bookstore here in East York, and he has tons of books, about African history, Black African history, and I think your book would be awesome inside the store. I don't think he will need anything from you, and yeah, we can probably do a book launch or figure something out. But I'm interested in reading it and then going from there. Yeah, maybe hooking you up with Mr. Now Valley there. You can look him up,
Yes.
Now Valley bookstores. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Now, one of our biggest misconceptions about violence is that it happens in a single moment, as we we think it happens in a single moment, especially when you're dealing with a random situation or you're dealing with a stranger or a road rage incident. You may think that, hey, this anger is very random. It's something that's happening just now, but or this person's just angry today. They're never like this. But deep down inside, and our the deep truth is that most of the time it doesn't. Violence is often the end result to emotions that have been building up over time. And I know that from my own experience because I shut down when I get angry or when I don't want to deal with anybody. I just shut down, but I don't resolve that anger. And then what happens is it builds up. And then when somebody else does something similar or maybe not even similar, just could just be the wrong timing, I may take it out on them. Now they may think that this is random, but they don't understand that it's not random. This is something that has been building up over time. So I think when we learn these things, it will help us better understand people when they get angry. Now I think of it all like filling glass with water, right? One drop doesn't make it overflow, and neither does 10. But eventually, the final drop becomes the breaking point. It's different than you actually pouring a glass of water and it fills up quickly. When that's gonna you know be filled. But when you have a glass of water and it's dripping small amounts, you're not knowing when that will become uh filled, and then that's when it overflows. So that's pretty much the same definition, or what the same lines that we're along here when we're discussing about um the breaking point and you know the between point between anger and violence. Now, Kathleen, before I got some questions, but before we talk about violence itself, I would like to start with anger. Now, I wanted to just ask this very simple question for the viewers. Do you believe anger is a bad emotion, or is it just simply an emotion that depends on how we respond to it?
I don't think anger is an inherently bad emotion, simply because sometimes you need to get angry. You should be more angry. Like we hear this all the time on social media. Oh, people should be more angry about this and that.
Right.
And it's true. It's true. There are things that if you're really tapped into them, they're terrible. You
Hmm.
should be angry about it. And sometimes anger is a great catalyst to change, changing your life, changing systems. Nobody ever changed a system or an injustice in society by sitting on the couch and chilling. There
Hmm.
was always a point where you thought, this is enough is enough. I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And so that's anger in terms of in a contextual space where yes, it's fuel and it leads you to connect to other people. You know, we connect to movements because
Hmm.
we saw something and we thought, no, this isn't right. So that's anger in that context.
Yeah.
Acting out in anger at someone is something completely different.
Yeah.
And that's what can take your life in a totally different direction sometimes if it's a really, bad thing that you did in that anger. And so that's where we have to be careful in how emotions are bubbling up. We start to feel them. And what happens after that can really take your life down a path you don't want to go down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, in your experience as a life coach, what are some of the most common sources of unresolved anger that people carry or that you've witnessed?
A lot of the unresolved anger is things that they felt they were deprived of. So
Hmm.
maybe opportunities they didn't get, somebody that didn't give them the love, the care that they were seeking, somebody that didn't, it's always something that somebody did or didn't do
Right.
that they felt they needed. Um, and that could be even a workplace. A lot of people I coach are executives, and it's a lot of it is what the system is not providing or gaps they see in the system that nobody seems to want to do anything about. Um, and so that's really kind of the source of anger is unmet need,
Hmm.
and then it starts to fester and grow.
So when someone experiences repeated disappointment, rejection, or trauma, then so how can these emotions then begin to change the way they think and react to the world?
It depends what the source of it is.
Hmm.
If that rejection or and mind you, I'm neurodivergent,
Hmm.
and so if you have like ADHD or autism or these kinds of things, there's something called rejection sensitivity, and
Okay.
so you can be extra sensitive to feeling like somebody rejected you. That might not really be the case, but you might
Right.
feel that way. Or if you're struggling with depression or a lot of these other conditions, the way that you filter experiences is quite different. So I just want to name that first.
Hmm.
But when everyone wants to feel like they belong. So a lot of what we say is the end goal in diversity, equity, and inclusion work is belonging. And what does that mean? It's you feeling or knowing that you belong in a space. People, you don't show up in a room and people like, oh, why is she here? So
Hmm.
everybody needs to feel a part of a space, a part of a community.
Yeah.
And when we don't feel that, it can cause us to think, well, what's wrong with me? And then a lot of stuff gets turned inward because if it's you have the perception that if it's not everybody else, it has to be me. There
Hmm.
has to be something fundamentally wrong with me that's broken or not functioning properly. Why I'm having this experience repeatedly with other people or in other situations. I've gone through that,
Yeah.
and I still go through that. So I think that's a very common thing. The source of it could be rejection from a primary caregiver. A lot of people
Hmm.
might think, "Oh, my mother rejected me," or they were in situations where their father left, or what have you. So,
Yeah.
a lot of our root causes and the way we behave start in our families.
Yeah, and it starts with kind of how we were, or some of the things that we were, I shouldn't say taught, but kind of how we're groomed. I believe I feel like belonging belonging somewhere starts with family, and belong and I truly agree, because for years, my when my grandparents were alive, my family were very close. We spent picnics together, we did Christmas dinners together, Easter dinners together, and then when my grandparents passed away, the family kind of separated, and then my position in the family felt less and less. Like, I was the oldest grandson, so when my grandparents were around, I felt belonged. I felt like like I was a pillar to that family. And then when that happened, or when they passed away, it kind of felt I kind of felt like the pillar was removed, and I I don't feel as belonged in my family. When they, cousins have been getting married, and I haven't been invited to weddings, and all kinds of things. And it's just kind of like, but we all gone through our situations, and I wasn't always the perfect person. Like, I was always lippy too, and growing up, and I had a little bit of an attitude and a behavior issue. So, but for the most part, my grandparents, no matter what I did, they always accepted me, and they made sure I felt belonged. And I think that that's one of the major problems that we do have in today's society, especially with our youth, is at home or anywhere else in their community, or wherever community they're part of, just feeling that belonging.
Yeah,
Now, yeah,
definitely.
did you want to add to that, or like,
Yeah, no,
yeah?
I totally agree with you. I
Hmm.
think a lot of what we carry into other environments is just that little kid. And
Yeah.
we carry that little kid inside of us around, and we just want to feel like people are accepting of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think, that's how life should be. I think if I always had this saying, like, Mom, I used to drive her nuts. Like, Mom, you brought me into this world, right? Right? You should be taking care of me forever. I didn't ask to come into the world. You put me into the world. Now I have to deal with death. So, you know, hint on hint, what Joe, we're nuts with that. But it's those just those little things that we have to just always just remember that. And I think it will help us a lot. Now, many people believe violence happens in a split second. From a psychological perspective, is it more accurate to say it's often the result of emotions building up over time?
I think it's emotions built up over millennia and decades.
Yeah, that's true.
I,
Yeah,
like, I mean,
yeah,
and in the case of like communities like Black and Indigenous communities, and like in a North American context, but the world over, you could go to any country,
yeah.
and you could find groups that have endured a lot of trauma, and it's stored in your mother's nervous system and your grandmother's and your,
Hmm.
and so it's just handed down, and it becomes what we think of as culture is often a collection of those traumatic events that we've had to respond to.
Right.
And so then it looks like we're just like that, but it's decades of that. And so I think the systemic piece, and this is where decolonization in this space is so important, because from
Hmm.
a Western European standpoint, the individual is the primary point, and the
Right.
individual is focused on. But when you look at a lot of other communal culture systems, therapy is a collective experience. And
Effort. Yeah.
yeah, the collective is taken into consideration. Your
Absolutely.
support system around you, the community that you're in,
Hmm.
the environment you're in is very important and is considered in that. It's not just the individual that you're treating, but you're treating that individual in terms of a whole contextual space that they
Right.
operate in. So Yeah, I think by the time you get to a kid that is running around and in the streets and doing a lot of things that are harmful to them, they've had that to deal with. They've had a community context, and then what are the tools? What how is that community reared up and prepared this child for life?
Hmm.
So you can only do that to the extent that you've been given those tools or you've been allowed to build those tools. And so we already know that in the context of ourselves, we were never accounted for
Yeah.
in this space in a lot of these communities and cities and whatnot. It was always like, okay, here is a corner for you to exist. Go just be in that corner and don't come out of it and don't bother anybody else. We don't want to deal with you.
Hmm.
So you keep getting that message of rejection, that I don't, people don't want me in society. They don't want me in school. They don't want me in the workplace. They don't. So how do I exist? Where do I fit?
Right.
And I think some people just decide, okay, I don't belong. I'm gonna lean into that, and I'm gonna run with it 100%. You don't
Hmm.
want me to exist? Okay, fine. This is what I'm gonna be doing with myself.
Yeah.
So I don't think people think that consciously, but if you feel
Subconsciously, though.
rejected,
Yeah.
yeah, if you feel rejected by society, a lot of the time we'll just double down and really go all the way with it.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Now, why is it so important to recognize that and then to recognize those emotional warning signs before someone reaches that breaking point?
It's a part of being an adult. It's a part of being a fully capable, formed human being. And we don't
Absolutely.
get to that point until we're at least around 28, 25, 26 years old.
Yeah.
It's a lot later than people thought it was before. You are not an adult at 18. Like you are
Absolutely not.
really just still
You're
forming.
still a child.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the law says one thing, but biologically it's another
I
thing.
was gonna
So
say the law is different from a biological standpoint, right?
yeah, I mean, your
Yeah.
brain is not fully formed to
That's
make
right.
good decisions, good sound decisions,
That's right.
and you don't have life experience to base your decisions on either.
Yeah.
So youth are at a big disadvantage in that sense. They really need guidance of older people, people just to take them under their wing, take interest in them, and actually everybody needs that. You never stop needing that.
Well, that's
And
what changed me. Somebody
yeah,
took me under their wing and they said, "Bro, let's go." you know, and it helped me. And to this day, I honor that person. And yeah, you know, fortunately, they're still where they are, but they are still a huge part of my life because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am now. So
yeah, we never stop needing mentors and coaches.
no, 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 never. Now that's going to lead us actually into our next discussion, right? Because we know that anger is the beginning. We know that emotional science can take someone, to feeling hurt, but we know that there's people that's going to be there also to guide us and lead us into the right direction. Give us a little insight, or let the viewers know what's a good role model and what's a good person or who's a good person to talk to when you're about to reach a breaking point.
Well, if you're about to reach a breaking point in a sense where you are a danger to another person or yourself, you
Mhm.
obviously want to reach out to any emergency mental health lines,
Yes.
and make sure that you're safe.
Mhm.
So that's in that scenario. Um, but practice makes perfect, and I don't think anybody gets to the point where they can control their emotions and their anger to respond the best that they can
Mhm.
overnight. That is a skill that's developed over a period of time. And role models play a big role in that. So
Yes.
if you have an example, for instance, my mom was a great example for that. Nothing could move that woman. Like she was just cool as a cucumber all the time. And sometimes you
Mhm.
wonder, like, did that just not bother you? Like, how are you being so calm? So I did have that example, but then I had my dad who would flip out for like the silliest little things.
Yeah.
So you kind of had an example of what you want to be and what you don't want to be. I had that in my house. I just had
Right.
two examples of people that reacted to situations completely differently. So
Absolutely.
I think I've picked up a little bit of both of that. I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
I have a temper. I do, um, but when chips are down, I'm very stable. So my kids joke
Mhm.
and they tease me like, You're 0 to 60. You get irritated so quickly for like the dishes not being done or whatever."
Right.
But then in a major crisis, nobody's cooler than you. So it's interesting how you like
Yeah.
you pick up character traits
Hmm.
um, from what you see, and so what's
And
modeled to you from the
mhm.
adults around you is really how you're going to form those patterns
And
of how you're going to respond.
that's an important point because that just shows how we can all be such an asset or be a help to one another, right? Based on just what you said, because we all have different areas and different levels of expertise or levels of our weaknesses that we experience in life. And I know like my strongest strength could be your biggest weakness, and your biggest strength can be my biggest strongest weakness. So we have to be able to help each other in that way and recognize that, because everybody thinks everybody's perfect. Everybody thinks that everybody has to be one way, or everybody has to be in a way how they view an opinion. And I don't believe that. I believe that knowing and having knowledge on how humans are and how different we are, because you're never going to be able to tell somebody unless you're a quote unquote psychic. You're not going to be able to know or tell what an individual's thinking or what they're going through or what they've been through. But by based on the, or sorry, we know based on the experiences we have versus the experiences the other person has, and then we that's how we can kind of be a crutch to each other.
Definitely, and
Hmm.
I think just in that sense, I wanted to name what mental stress and emotional stress looks like in people.
Hmm.
They've done studies where, in Black women, for instance, it looks like irritation, it looks
Right.
like attitude, it looks like a lot of things. So when people are displaying these kinds of behaviors, and you're like, gee, why is that person so difficult? They could be depressed, and
Hmm.
that's the way that it's coming out. So looking back, I realized, oh, okay, when you look back and you realize your parents were people, like you have that aha moment where, oh my gosh, I actually, my parents were actually human beings.
Yeah.
Um, then you realize that, oh yeah, and then you learn their backstory, you learn how they came up, and realize they only could give you what they were given. And in their time, therapy wasn't a thing. You
Hmm.
just kind of went through it. I did have a modeling for going to therapy, and that was my dad,
Hmm.
which was, looking back, quite interesting that a Caribbean man in his late 40s went for therapy.
Right.
But he
Mm.
did, and he went for a couple years, and I saw the change. I still see it today. He's
Yes.
84 years old, and I'm so proud of him
Good for
because
him.
the person
Congratulations,
that
Dad.
I always tell my kids that the grandpa you have now was not the dad that I had.
Right.
So,
God bless you for saying that and recognizing that, because man, I even feel like my kids are so hard on me sometimes. Like I mean, like I was I like okay, I was an active father because I was there. I was in their lives. I may not have been the richest dad. I didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't provide and give them the things that they needed fully financially, but I was there. And I had family members that were there that helped take care of the kids financially. So my kids were well taken care of. Like they never struggled as I struggled. Their mother had a home, they had kids, they what I mean, they had food, they back to school. I paid for the school uniforms. Like they had a father, right? But sometimes our flaws when we're in our parenting can sometimes be better when we become grandparents, because when you get older, and this is, I always tell everybody this, you can't I was 18 when I had my daughter. We talked about this. I was a child myself. I was a child raising a child. I wasn't fully developed the mind to be a man, to actually be the man that everybody wanted me to be a man. I couldn't. I was still coming out of the childhood teenage phase and getting into manhood. Now for the mother, it was a little bit easier because the government was more geared towards her and helping her financially. So that was okay. Like for her to be, helped financially, I had to like go out there and work and make my own income. The government never gave me anything for my kids, right? So when I look at that, I said, okay, look, I have a responsibility then. I got to actually really change my life around. And it took a while. Like it took me until I was like in my 30s for me to realize. And like I had to go to prison, do time, sitting there. I parented my children in prison, everything, right? It was, and they knew I was honest with them about it, and they knew. And but the most important thing was that I I kept my word, and I said when I get out, I'm gonna graduate from high school. I'm gonna get a college diploma. I got 2 college diplomas in there. Graduated from high school, 2 college diplomas. Came out, went back to school, did a journalism and English course in Centennial, and did a bunch of other things. And I, really changed my life around. I did a complete 360, and I did it for my children. And yet it wasn't enough. So for me it's kind of like I'm now just got to focus on my granddaughter, hopefully. um that's another battle with seeing her, but with all good, with the grace of God, grace to God, that will change. But you know when you become a better grandfather than a father, it's because of the man that you become as you get older and as you learn. Talk about that. Talk about the development of humans and how important it is for us to understand the phase. By the way, I want to talk to you because I'm writing a book, and I think you would be the perfect co-author with me on this book, and you're gonna love the name. I'm not gonna say it online because it's very smart, but it talks about phases. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just wanted to name that just because somebody doesn't understand or see what you went through for them, it doesn't mean it wasn't enough. They're not able to see it yet.
Right.
Um, and
Thank
I
you.
I have tensions with my kids too. I have
Mhm.
a 28 to 21-year old. I have 5 children, 4 boys. Raising 4 boys in Jane and Finch and those kinds of areas was very challenging.
Yeah.
But they don't get it. They're not aware. My oldest is he gets it now,
Right.
and he was like, "Mom, how did you do it?" But
Hmm.
my 21-year-old still catch an attitude,
Yeah.
and because he's in that mindset where you didn't do X, Y, Z. So they're still kind of in that mode when they're younger,
Yeah.
and that's okay. But the ones that I have now that are getting into their mid 20s, they understand. They're realizing what I went through.
Yeah.
They'll never get the full scope of it, and that's fine. I think it's children are one of those sacrifices where you kind of I kind of don't want them to know everything because
It's
it's
not good.
yeah, I think it's
It
just like
affects them and it affects you.
exactly, and
Hmm.
there's just some things I could never have them know. I just
Yeah.
don't want them to have that in their mind. So I think there's that, but the phases people go through, that's been studied. There's a psychologist, Piaget, and he studied the phases of human development. And there are mainstream milestones that we are supposed to meet, and everybody's different, but there are some, things that we all need. There's that also that Maslow's hierarchy of needs where we all need certain things
Yeah.
is actually a Blackfoot concept, and I always like to remind people of that. He took it and flipped it. So the Blackfoot have self-actualization as the baseline, whereas Maslow put it at the top of the pyramid.
Right.
So he put food and shelter and those kinds of things at the base, that all people need these things.
Hmm.
But the Blackfoot put it as all people need self actualization first.
Right.
And so I think if we had a society where we realized self actualization was the base need,
Hmm.
what would that society look like? Everybody now is trying to get their food and get their shelter and
Yeah.
secure those resources. And sometimes you feel like you have to do desperate things to do it.
Yeah.
So I think we would have had a very different society if throughout human development we realized what the baseline needs are is beyond physical material things, and it's
Hmm.
really something more existential and spiritual than that. So your spiritual food is something that feeds you throughout all the phases of your life. um,
Right.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so that's just, I mean, yes, developmentally there's different things that you go through, everybody goes through. Now I'm in perimenopausal phase, and now I'm,
Hmm.
my all my friends were talking about the hot flashes and the mood swings and the
Right.
not sleeping, and so yeah, you go through different phases in your life, but I think the most important thing is going through it, not
Yeah.
trying to avoid it, not trying to go around it,
Yeah.
not thinking that you're going to conquer it. Just go through it. Just go right through the storm, and you'll always
Nice.
come out on the other side okay.
Now I want to get into something about something very, very important, because this goes along the lines with helping and coping, or sorry, coping with these these mechanisms, or these symptoms that we're having before violence occurs. Now, I wanted to talk about the danger of rumination. Now, we know that over time, because of, especially if we don't know any of what we're talking about, we still fill our heads with, oh, this can't be real, or this is not fair, and my life I hate my life, and I hate life, and I hate this person. And you continue to tell yourself that, or I'm never going to be good enough, I'm never going to succeed, I'm always failing. And you're keeping these ideas in your head. That's also a part of trauma and what's building up, and that can turn into resentment and bitterness when you're dealing with other people. Now, ruminations is when someone keeps replaying the same painful event, right? The argument, the insult, the betrayal, until um, they explode as well. And that's a huge part of what's been going on in today's society, with people that are going through with mental health, um, schizophrenia, psychosis, and that type of thing. Have you experienced any events as a life coach with anyone struggling with rumination, or have you struggled with rumination? And how's it helped you, being aware of it? How's it helped you?
Yeah, I can speak from my personal perspective because a lot of the coaching that I do is on from a career basis. So I don't really have the opportunity to get into the root causes of someone's thoughts. I just can deal with them fairly on a surface level, but we have to keep
Right.
focused on the work context. But for myself, I struggled with rumination quite a bit.
Hmm.
I was diagnosed with depression when I was 17,
Okay.
and that is, as many people with depression know, a condition that lends itself to ruminating. Um,
Yes.
and it's something that I woke up with every day.
Hmm.
All the things that happened to me came to me every single day. And I woke up angry every day. So, ruminating is something that really takes over your mind, and you're not able to move on. You're not able to see a future for yourself because you are so stuck in what happened to you. And there's complex PTSD, which they have identified as different than PTSD. And
Right.
complex PTSD can be harder to treat. It can look like
Mm.
a lot of that replaying of events. You just cannot stop thinking about certain things.
Yeah.
Um, and so, that takes a professional to help you unpack the reasons why you can't let go of a particular idea or conversation, or and it's usually a moment that changed you. You know, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us have those moments we can look back and go, oh, that's when I started to not trust uh, men, or this is when I, like my case, or this is when I started to not, shut down, and I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
people to know how I was feeling. So walked around. Nobody knew I was depressed. Nobody. My kids didn't know. Um, my like nobody really knew because I had a modeling of functional depression, and that
Yeah.
was with my mom. So I didn't have a messy house. I didn't, I looked well put together. Like you wouldn't, my kids were clean. Like you would never know how much I was struggling. So you can become expert at masking what you're going through, and nobody having any clue. So that's kind of how it manifested for me. And I realized I just started therapy a few months ago. Uh, Over the years, if I was in a
Congratulations.
crisis, I would access a crisis line or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a nervous breakdown in like mid 2000s, and
Okay.
that changed me. I was like, I had the doctors tell me,
Mm-hmm.
you don't belong here,
Yeah.
and um, you need support. You
Yeah.
need more help. Um, and so I was in there for about a week. They wanted to keep me for two, but I had a lot of kids and I had to get back out there. But I realized, wait a minute, I'm in here and I'm not living my life. And everybody that has done all these things to me, they're outside. Like
Yeah.
they are enjoying themselves. They're not thinking about me. So that really taught me I have to start this process of letting this stuff go, put the burden down, take the cape off, whatever I was going, how I was overcompensating.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the breaking point for me is when I realized you need professional help and you need to start working on this. And just like yourself,
Yeah.
my kids were the main reason why I decided I needed to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always the best when you're changing for the kids because it's you're providing a future for them, right? And that's what we're doing and what we should be doing in the world in general is providing the future for the next generation, providing a better place for the next generation, providing better education and better um, community because we all know, you know, where some of the education can lead and some of the misconceptions of misconceptions of information that could lead people uh, in a certain direction. And I feel that that's primarily maybe 40 to 50% of why the world today is upset and why the world today just don't use any of these tools or any of these any of these tools to help them with their anger or help them with violence or help them with whatever they're going through because they feel that there's no resources, there's no outlets, there's no therapy. And this is why I started Therapy Hub, because I said I even looked at some therapists and I said, okay, some of them are very expensive, right? And like, who can afford a therapist that's somebody that's on the street, somebody that's going through a crisis? We did mention there are crisis lines and stuff like that, but when somebody needs somebody like that support, that immediate support, or they need to connect with somebody, I believe like a crisis line is good just to get things off your chest. But when you want to actually confront and actually have a relationship with somebody and actually share your story with somebody and be able to trust, because this world you cannot trust anybody. So if you find somebody that you could trust, somebody that you could give your information to and they're going to keep it with them, that's the most important thing. Can you explain to the people the surroundings and how important it is if you're So when if you are anybody out there that's wanting to change, if you're watching before the trigger and you really say to yourself, you know what, I really like this stuff. I'm gonna change. This is gonna help me. I'm gonna use this to help me change. Please let the people know the crowd and the type of environment, or not even just environment, but just the evaluation of recognizing a safe to an unsafe person and how important that is when you're dealing with um, the breaking point.
Yeah, I think what we talked about before
Mentorship.
was, yeah, you don't become who you are
Hmm.
in in and of yourself. There's this individualism that we're all encouraged to absorb
Hmm.
and live by in this culture, but it takes people pouring into you. It takes people sacrificing for you, and you feeling cared about, because people can sacrifice for you, but you don't really feel like they care. You could
Yeah.
have one of those, you have food in your belly, a roof over your head kind of people that they don't realize emotionally that they're not providing anything for you. So I think we need connection, we need community,
Hmm.
and we need people that just accept us for us. Like there's so much of feeling like you have to mold and bend and shift and change to be in spaces, and we just need people that love us for us, that just like, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so happy you just showed up. And
Hmm.
I have to reference my Atlanta family here because they are so much like that. There's some family that you meet and it's like, oh, you got so big, or oh, and they pick you apart
Right.
immediately, immediately. And that always bothered me, especially as a kid. I was like, why, why we got to be like this? Like, just be happy to see someone. And I must say, the family that I have here, I love coming here
Hmm.
because they are just open arms and are so wonderful and don't do that. They're just happy that you're here. They're happy you're alive. And so it's really a matter of feeling like that belonging. That's what belonging means to me. It's like you accept me for me in all the ways that I come. You
Hmm.
realize I'm a full human being. I'm not somebody that you consume in the ways that you want to consume me. So something I noticed in my past was what I like. Basically, I'm a sunny person. I'm a happy person,
Hmm.
and I kind of move around that way in the world. But I'm a real person,
Yes.
and I think when a lot of people get to know you and they realize, oh, you have you have a problem with this, or you got angry at me for that, or they realize you're a full human being just like they're a full human being. But a lot of people can't handle your humanity because they weren't
Hmm.
given the tools to do that. They were only given the tools to consume people on the surface for the purposes that suited them. So our communities have been deprived of a lot of what we would have had if some scholars describe Black people as decontextualized Africans.
Hmm.
And I think that's such a good description. What would we have had if we were in our African context? We
Hmm.
would have had our village. We would have had our foods that were built for that were nourished our bodies and didn't make us sick. We would have all of these kinds of things. And I see the difference. When I meet African people from the continent, a lot of time they have a hard time understanding us here, and how we behave, or um, how our communities function. But we were ripped from that context.
Yeah.
And so we just had to do the best that we could. And a lot of that contributed to how we function today. There is something called post traumatic slave disorder.
Hmm.
And I see it. I see it in a lot of our people and how we function and relate to each other. It's really like a dog eat dog. Like, not everything is so competitive, and
Yeah.
the crabs in the bucket stereotype that we have is a lot of these things are from that time of enslavement. Like I read about a context where you don't praise children Because if you, like, let's say a child has a talent, they play the piano or they dance or sing well or something,
Mm-hmm.
or they're very bright, the mother or the parents of that child would downplay their talents because that could lead that child to being taken away from them. So
Wow.
now you have decades, hundreds of years later, and in the Caribbean community, it's very common where people are like, I don't know why my parents just can't be happy for me. Like they always have
Mm-hmm.
to put me down or put me in my place or take me down a notch or
It feels
don't
negative.
yeah, don't start feeling yourself too
Yeah.
much or and a lot of it comes from that protectionism. But if you don't understand our history and you don't understand that context, and you would just think we're just like that. We're just screw face, crabs in a bucket. Like we're not happy for each other. We don't want to help each other. That's
Mm-hmm.
not us. And so we can't really get back to us as a community and then help individuals get back to themselves. It's really a space of and a mission of reclaiming your humanity and yourself
Mm-hmm.
because we're in this white supremacist patriarchal system
Mm-hmm.
that is not who we are in reality. We are definitely decontextualized and we're just doing the best that we can.
Now, Kathleen, I thank you so much for coming on our show. We've been on live. I think it's been an hour. Time has We've been enjoying ourselves with these questions and this conversation. Time has just flew past our heads here. Now, before I let you go, I want you just to let everybody know how they can find you, or if they're in need of a crisis, what to do, where to find, whoever they need, if it's a program, anything that that can help an individual that may feel like they're going to result to violence after them, getting angry, or them having built up resentment, bitterness of someone.
I think it's always good to seek out these things before you need them. You don't want to be in a crisis and searching for a 1-800 number. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
locate the same thing like if you would know 911 or 811 or 311, whatever it is in your community to find resources, know what those are beforehand. There's a lot more people struggling with mental health. It's very common. So, if you have that in your back pocket, it's good to know what those numbers are beforehand, those crisis lines. I know in BC we have a mental health and substance use crisis line. So, make sure you know what those things are. I've met those people because of the work that I do. They're wonderful. They give a lot of themselves. And you're in good hands if you call. That's in a crisis, in a pinch. Call a friend. Call a friend that you can pick up the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're going to be able to talk you through something, walk you through it, calm you down. Those are the people that you want to call. And or know what community you can go to if you're having a rough patch. A lot of us go to our communities. You might have a faith where you might retreat to when you need that kind of rebuilding of yourself or your soul. So use any channels that you have for support. Use them. Don't feel like you have to go through something all on your own. There's
Mhm.
people really just ready and willing to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yep. Now, where on Instagram can they find you if they wanted to add you on Instagram?
Yeah, sure. So I'm at the underscore creactivator on Instagram. That's my main business account. Creactivator is spelled Kreativ, ATORS. And I'm also at Creative KMJ. So that's more like where I'm going, what I'm eating, concert I'm going to, like fun stuff. So those are two things. And creative is also Kreativ, KMJ. Um, and I'm on YouTube. I have a podcast here too. It's called The Creactivators with an S, Creactivators. And yeah, so I'll give you all those links so your audience has it. But LinkedIn is really popped off for me. I don't know what's going on in LinkedIn, but I've had a really I have a really good healthy following on LinkedIn as well. If you're on LinkedIn, hit me up in DMs. People do it all the time. I'm on TikTok as Creative KMJ as well. I'm starting a Substack, and yeah, so I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere.
Nice, nice. Kathleen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was
Thank you. Thanks
awesome.
for
It was
having me.
awesome. We're going to catch up soon. All
Thanks.
right. Have a good one. Take care. Now, I have a question to ask everybody before we close. Now, this question is a very important question. This question is simple and very, it's kind of like homework. Okay. I want to leave you with something to think about. Talk about it with your family, discuss it with your friends. What makes someone believe pulling a trigger is justified? What makes someone believe pulling a trigger is justified? Is it fear, pride, trauma, revenge, hopelessness, or something else entirely? We've discussed many different areas with Kathleen today and what it could be, and we discussed the result. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments because this conversation belongs to all of us. All right. Now, today's conversation wasn't about excusing violence. Every person's responsible for their own choices. But if we're serious about if we're serious about preventing violence, we have to act now. And we also have to understand that the path leads there. Okay. Now, the goal isn't just to respond after tragedy, to react when something happens, to, have panels when there's only gun violence. The goal is to recognize the warning signs, okay? And focusing on them before another life is taken or before another tragedy happens, okay? Because every tragedy begins long before the trigger is even pulled. Think about that again. Every tragedy begins long before the trigger is even pulled. It begins with thoughts. It begins with emotions. It begins with your actions. It begins on what you're thinking before you're actually carrying that out. So we got to remember that, and we have to really stay in tune with that and understand that when these things are happening or whenever these incidents are happening, before they're happening, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that hasn't been dealt with. Pain, decision making. Okay. We talked about emotional control, understanding the emotional staircase. All these things are not something that I'm 100% perfected at. I'm still working at it too. So don't feel like if you fail at something or you're continuing to fail at something that you're not learning. That's learning because you're failing. In order for you to fail for something, you have to try it, right? So you're trying it. So if you're failing and it's working, that means that it's working because you are learning. The more and more we learn, the better things can get. Okay. Now, the next episode, we're going to examine another critical piece of the puzzle: fear, respect, and reputation. We're going to explore why so many people believe that they have to protect their image, that they have this person that that you have to be to earn respect from others, or to earn respect through intimidation or responding to conflict in violence. Okay, we're gonna talk about these things and how we can begin changing that mindset. When we're changing our lives, guys, the best thing to do when we're changing our lives is to change everything completely. Now, once again, we're not going to be perfect, but you have to really be cautious with those things if you want to protect your peace. Okay. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of someone else, and remember, healing begins long before the trigger's even pulled. Kathleen, once again, thank you so much for stopping by and coming on our show. And for everybody that's viewed today, please like, subscribe, please share, like, and subscribe to keep the awareness alive. Peace and love.